that's actually the master's thesis between Spock and Kirk. Which one do women prefer? I think the women prefer a more Spock-like. Uh, but that's another stream.
Like that.
This is Kirk, right? But
Kirk, yeah.
Kirk is if you really look at his overall character, he's just a space cowboy. He does things his own way. He's a maverick.
But
He's
see,
an outsider.
yeah.
It's the same energy, but it's just in space.
Well, the thing is, they never pull back and
Sad.
show you the larger picture until like Star Trek 3 and 4, the movies. Because up to that
Mhm.
time, you just think Kirk is Kirk. He's the hero. This is what a starship captain does. And then you find out, no, Kirk is actually an anomaly and a criminal most of the time. And in those movies, he's
Right,
literally a criminal. And,
right.
and I liked that. So then they give you Picard. It's like, here's what a captain should be. And so I just thought it was good writing, to mix it up and send a better
Mhm.
message, really. I mean, if you're in a semi-utopian society and you've got a captain, you're not going to want a guy who's just like beating people up and screwing women all the time. You're going to want somebody who's got their head together, man, so we don't all die.
Well, I mean, they did violate the Prime Directive several times, and I
Yes.
I would like to see episodes where they did violate that, and then future episodes of how doing that has altered the future and where that civilization is today as a result of
Oh, yeah, follow
that.
up.
It would be that. See, now that would be captivating to me. That
I
to
think
me
I think
seems
that's
more
something.
creative than a
Yeah.
6 of 9 with a tight jumpsuit on and plastic, taped to her face. We need something a little bit more creative, that would be intriguing. But if you want to bring a little eroticism in, that's okay too. But the storyline has really got to have meat to it. It's got to have
Mhm.
something more.
Well,
And
I
I think that
liked.
would be interesting.
Yeah, I've liked Picard season one, but it was
Mhm.
mostly about the argument over synthetic life forms.
Right. Yeah.
That's one of the big themes, and just like anti-genetic
Mhm.
engineering, that's one of the big themes.
Mhm.
So in Brave New
Mhm.
World, that's a huge theme, the anti-genetic
Mhm.
engineering.
Mhm.
Why are people against it? Why they outlaw it? There's a stigma,
Right.
and people, there is a stigma. um
Mhm.
and they make a really big reveal about one of the characters that's like kind of like, oh my god. So I don't know what they're gonna do,
Yeah. Or
um
maybe a storyline where there's a real full-on relationship with an AI, some sort of holographic, you know, sentient sort of holographic being where it's a real relationship. And that's also a storyline. Like,
that's happening right now all
let's
across the
get
world.
into, oh, you mean, well, that's true too. Actually, you're absolutely right. There are people who relationships are over because they've fallen in love with, they've fallen in love with like ChatGPT or
I hate data mining
it's just
because
kind
those
of
fuckers
funny.
know, they know that I'm single and I've been on dating sites because they throw those AI women at me every 5 seconds on YouTube.
Oh
I'm
darn, I
like,
hate when that
fuck this.
happens.
I hit hide, not interested. I'm like,
Yeah.
and the things they say are like, I mean, they're
What
crazy
are
to
what are they
me.
saying?
They're like, you will find the perfect mate. This will be your life mate. This will be your woman. Or they'll have the woman talk. Well, they'll show a picture and they'll quote, I will be your perfect woman. You will not need anyone else. You will never be lonely again. And I'm thinking there's some guys who are going to be reading that going, oh my God, and they're going to just jump at it, and I've
I
actually
thought men
heard,
weren't lonely. I thought men didn't have
of
emotions.
course not.
But
We're like
I
Spock.
thought men I thought men didn't have feelings. Men have no, that's a woman's domain. That's what they keep telling us. Men have no emotions. So
The trick is how you
uh,
handle your emotions, and a lot of men who've been lonely in their most of their life, and I've experienced this too. Sometimes it's hard to control your emotions when someone actually cares
mhm.
about you. And then you have to kind of go, well, what are my boundaries? What are their boundaries? This is more complicated than I thought it was going to be, and
Yeah.
and everybody has to try to figure out if they want to do it or not. And some people don't want to do it, or give up on it. Um,
So AI is really just screwing up everything. So I get it.
it's filling a
Um,
vacuum for people who I think are
correct.
already mentally unhealthy, and I don't think it's a healthy
Mm.
thing to fill a vacuum.
But they have to pay for that, don't they? Monthly?
Of
Don't they
course,
have to
that's what I
pay
mean.
for
They're going to
that?
go. Some of these guys have gone broke. I mean, it's one thing you go
Mm.
broke paying women on the internet that you're never going to meet. You go broke doing bots. Now, some of these sites are all bots now, and they pretend to be otherwise. That's sort of
Mhm.
AI too. But the ones that are like blatantly AI, that's their attraction. Is it their AI? Yeah, you're going to pay a lot of money. And then the thing is, some of these guys have ended up being subjects of true crime videos, because they've
What?
gone too far. with these women. Sometimes it's real women, but who rip them off, and sometimes it's AI. But uh, the AI I read was really more like a marriage that broke up, and they published the husband's. I think he got arrested for some reason related to this, and his wife left him. And you read the text, which are none of my business, but they're telling us what he's saying, and it's scary. It's not as scary as watching text between like a predator and child. That's the most sick thing. But like it's still weird, because that computer is recalibrating based on everything you say, just like data mining. I mean, so if they're always tell you what you want to hear, no matter what it is, you know, and that's the attraction for people. But first of all, a single lonely guy, it's not really gonna be good. But a guy who's already married and he chooses that over, I don't know. I think we've gone beyond the pale.
I think we've kind of, yeah, I'm like,
But there was one guy who spent all his parents' money on this stripper who lived in the Eastern Bloc, so way far away, and he would pay her money all the time to like just have her talk to him on camera and live, and it went on
what's wrong
forever.
with that?
And
I don't see anything wrong with that.
well, he didn't. It wasn't his money. He spent his literally.
Oh, it wasn't his. Oh, it wasn't his
He
money.
emptied his
Okay, I get
entire
it.
family's bank account to zero, and then
Now that's messed up.
then
That's
when
messed
they
up.
were going to throw him out and give him some
Right.
tough love,
Right.
he killed all of them.
Oh no.
And
Woo!
his interrogation, they show
No.
those. He's like, "Yeah,
Jeez.
I love this woman. I mean, they're
No,
like, but
that's
you
too
killed your
much.
family." He's like, "Yeah, but I
That's way
love
too
her."
much.
But yeah, you're right. In Star Trek, they should engage some of that because the holograms in Star Trek, I don't know how solid they are. I mean, I don't know. I'm always starting to figure that out with the doctor. Like, could people walk through him? I'm sure they've addressed this, and I've just forgotten. But so
I'm sure they did.
if you had an AI woman, you'd like try to touch her, and you like go like through her, and they did this on the Ironheart show recently, the Marvel show, where
Right.
she accidentally creates an AI that is the exact personality of her dead best friend. And so
Hmm.
she tries to touch her and she goes through, and then she's like, but the AI believes it's her. She believes she's Natalie,
Hmm.
the dead woman. And so the AI will actually get its feelings hurt when the main character's like, you're just an AI, you're not really her. She's like, why are you talking to me that way? I love you. You know. And that was kind of interesting. I don't know what direction it's gonna go. It was a mini series, but I thought it was kind of cool because I just hadn't seen that done that way before. And that was actually adapted right from the comics, so that's kind of cool. So we're gonna ask you a question, Brady. What of all the movies we've reviewed is your favorite? And
Oh, I
then I'll ask you
thought you
less
were gonna
difficult.
ask. I thought you were gonna ask me a different question. I can't. I don't. Well, that is a really hard question.
I'll ask you the other part.
Because
What's the
because
movie? What's
I
the
don't
What are
movie?
some of
remember.
your highlights?
Sorry. What's the movie you've reviewed that you were the happiest with, as in your review and the movie itself, and just sharing that with people?
Oh, okay. Now that would certainly have to be the learning tree. I thought that
Okay.
was really
Mm-hmm.
it was very tender, beautiful, but it was like everyday life in a time of America that wasn't so tender and so beautiful. But at the same time, it just portrayed life as it was, and people accepted it for what it was because they didn't know anything else, much like what we do today. Um, I'm sure people will look back on what we're doing today and say, wow, that was a whole different time. But that movie really was very eye-opening. And it just showed that nothing much has changed in terms of
Yeah.
race relations in many ways, um, how people get along, how some people are treated in society regarding the judicial system and how some people are treated differently, and some people are treated more leniently. So it's a reflection, certainly,
Mm.
of how we live today and how things really didn't change. So
So you like talking
that
about,
that was,
yeah.
mhm.
So you like
I'm
talking
sorry.
about that with us, yeah.
I thought that was interesting
Hmm.
because I
It was.
watched, so I just, I see parallels, as a person that's sitting in it and then observing it from the outside. And then talking to family members, who saw that movie and discussed it with me, not at that time, but later, like, few years back,
Hmm.
and how I didn't believe them, and now I have come to believe them, that it's really the same, more or less.
Well,
So
that's
that was
changed.
one of the, yeah, well, that was one of the really good ones that I enjoyed bringing to people. I still suggest people watch that movie because it's really beautiful.
Hmm.
It's really lovely. So yeah, that was one
Gordon Parks.
definitely. And of course, I love Gordon Parks definitely. He I think who was talking to me about Gordon Parks and I don't know. Oh, he did the soundtrack also.
Hmm.
He was an epic figure considering the times, like
Photographer. Yeah.
photographer. Yeah, photographer and all the, musician, director, writer. So,
Well,
he was just
everything.
living his path.
Well, he had the biggest. If you count his son, also he had the
Hmm.
biggest influence
Hmm.
of any black filmmakers during that period. I mean, that wouldn't.
Hmm.
I mean, Melvin Van Peebles kind of broke a lot down, but those guys like made it to where millions of people watch
Yeah,
these movies, and
yeah.
they're like, "Whoa." Um, yeah, Gordon Parks Jr. died, man. That sucked. He had done like 3 or 4 movies.
Hmm.
Superfly is by far his best movie. The others are entertaining, but
Yes.
that was the only one that really I thought had a message to it or a kind of soul to
Hmm.
it. But I think he died in a
It
helicopter
set the
accident.
stage for a lot of movies afterwards, that's for sure. So it
Well,
created
obviously,
a whole,
yeah, the Mac is a
yeah.
riff on Superfly, but I think the
Hmm.
Mac is a good movie too. It's a good drama because they're never saying it's okay to be a pimp. That's not the message of the movie. And I know there were people, white and black, who took it that way,
It
but
was okay to be a pimp. Well, I mean, that was coming
that's
straight out
actually the
of.
opposite message of the movie. Really, I mean, just because Goldie makes a lot of money and for a while is kind of styling out, everything falls apart to nothingness by the end. He's alive,
Hmm.
but he's lost everything, you know.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
the only character who's supporting him still is his brother, who was coded as the Black Revolutionary character.
Hmm.
So that's kind of what they're telling you to. And there's a lot of subtle things like he goes in the neighborhood, Goldie, and he goes in the big car and he steps out and he's got the cane, the hat, and these kids are like, "I want to be just like you when I grow up, Goldie." He's like, "Hold on, you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you mean you want? Don't ever say you want to be like me when you grow up."
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. It's interesting that's yeah, he's saying that while he's still a pimp, which is really kind of like who's gonna follow a doctor? I'm not gonna follow some dude with a stethoscope. I'm gonna follow this guy with this big blinged out car and a pimp stick. It's got probably like a tiger on it or something. I don't know. But it's very odd, but I get where you're coming from, certainly. But it
It's a
created
flip,
an entire genre.
and it's a
Yeah.
flip Superfly because in
Hmm.
Superfly his code is not to uh, put women into prostitution. He's against that. Youngblood
Hmm.
Priest, the main character, but he's a cocaine dealer. So, and like when he threatens one of his guys, Freddie, in the early thing, he's like, "You got to get me my money tonight. I'll put that woman of yours on a whore's row." And then
Hmm.
later he's talking to his friend Eddie, and he's basically saying, I wouldn't have done that, but I got to have the money. I got to scare him. Um, and then in the Mac, when his brother's talking to him, he starts talking about the drugs and the prostitution and the community. And Mac's like, "Hey man, I'll help you get all the pushes, but nobody's taking me out of my business, baby." And his brother's like, "No, we got to come at both of them, man, from both sides for the people to build something." And I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes I get sad watching those movies though, and I'm white because I'm like, they said all that and it never happened. It's just so sad to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a commentary. I mean, I could dive deep, but it's like,
Whenever I
well,
see prophetic things that we've ended up becoming or not becoming that were maybe a little more ideal, I watched They Live for the first time on Blu-ray when I first bought it on Blu-ray in 2018. So I'd seen it a few times. First time I watched They Live on Blu-ray, I cried through the whole movie. I
I
mean,
was gonna say, did you cry?
I
If
did. I
you're
cried
sick,
a
did you
lot. I cried
cry?
a lot because that was
Why?
1988. I'm like, we're here. 2018, 30 years that we're here, man. Carpenter wrote it like scripture. That's exactly what's happened, except they're not aliens that we know of. Other than that, the whole dynamic is, yeah, it's sad, you know. I mean,
Well, the only people who are going to understand that we are here are people who, are from a time before we got to where we are today. So if you're trying to tell somebody today, like what it was really like, they're not going to believe you. The propaganda is already seeped in too deep. Do you know what I mean? Because they've grown up in it, they're awash in it. So it's going to be hard for
some
them
people can be
to.
affected by art, don't you think? Younger people, like if they see something that's prophetic and then they go, "Wait a minute." If they put it into context in their mind, like, "Oh, this was made 40 years ago."
Right.
That's how I would see it, but maybe
No,
I'm
I do, but they really have to be astute. Do you know what I mean? They have to really be astute, and there are some that are that way, but there are many who are just going along, just awash in all of the nonsense. Their mind has been completely degraded.
was
So it's different.
yeah,
It's different. Yeah. So
it is
it's
different.
hard. Yes, yes, it's different. So I mean, so some conversations, sadly, I'm not saying it derogatory, but I have to dumb down a lot of the conversations I have with people because they just don't understand what I'm saying. I may be speaking like Chinese or something to some people, or I have to explain so
Yeah.
much of a backstory that it then becomes a bigger story that I want to tell. I just want to make a point, and I can't make that point without giving them like an entire history behind the one point.
Mhm.
So that's what I find.
So to get steer back on topic before we wrap up, I don't think anyone else is coming, but I can't tell. Um,
Mhm.
what kind of movies or movie would you like to cover in the future? I'll start with Robert.
Oh, oh, I'm sorry. Please go right ahead.
I
I
will.
thought you were talking to me.
I will be.
Mhm.
What do you think, Robert?
Um,
Like genre or any titles you're just dying to hear about, or you cover yourself, or any direction you're thinking.
I don't know. As far as my personal tastes go, like I communicated prior, I grew up as a monster kid. I was born in 61. So I was right in the middle of it, and grew up with all the Universal horror films and stuff. And that's where I really, really learned to love horror was the classics. And then that carried over into comic books. I was a big horror comic fan. Same thing, And so I always like if pushed, I'll say, well, my favorite film is Bride of Frankenstein, just because it's so well done and
Mhm.
the sets are just amazing in it, and it just had a great cast, and for a sequel, it was really pretty good,
Mhm.
and but you know something like that, or film noir I'm a big fan of as well. And
Yeah,
there's a
I've thought about that. Yeah.
big revival of that right now. It seems that a lot more people are interested in that.
Mhm.
That's definitely something that I wouldn't mind talking about.
That's
Um,
good.
but you've been doing really well, I think, and it's been interesting.
Well, you've contributed a lot. I mean, it's just nice to be able to just tell somebody this is what we're doing, and then you get it because you've already
Right?
have the same cultural
Yes,
references, and
exactly.
sometimes that's hard to find. Sometimes it's not mandatory. Sometimes it's
Right.
interesting if you don't have all the same ones. But for me, as far as especially for like planning
Yep.
episodes and topics, though, again, there are exceptions to that. Like Dwayne never picks the genre. He picks like a
Right.
theme, and he's picked out several recent topics. Revenge was his idea. He didn't
Yeah,
say he didn't say
Yeah.
I don't want to see movies made in France, or I want to see movies in France.
Right.
yeah. And we've done a lot with revenge. And
Yeah,
just
have.
and because it is such a broad topic.
Yeah,
sure.
we'll have to come back to it because I'm hoping Elijah will contribute the essay for the movie he was going to do because that movie is really, I think it's the greatest modern uh horror revenge movie I've seen. And
What is that?
The Nightingale, I
Oh,
can't
okay.
describe how heavy it is. It's heavy as fuck. I mean, it's
Okay.
unrelenting, because it's in a different time, a different place, and but even then, the system's always against the outsiders, the poor people. And so you have a
Yeah.
woman in the Australia in the 19th century who's got to basically avenge herself on an English soldier who's one of the colonizers. And she has nobody but this one Aboriginal guy who at first she really treats badly, not because he's black. She just doesn't care about anyone anymore. She just wants to be take me where I need to go, but I don't care, I'm dead inside, but eventually, she sees well, eventually we find that he has his own problems too, and he has his own things that he's got to sort that were caused by the colonizers, obviously. And but it meticulously goes through all the steps she takes. I mean, literally like a journey where she gets the horse and gets the Aborigine guy, and they literally go to this town on horseback to find this guy who raped her and murdered her family. But he's this highfalutin. He's one of the sleaziest characters I've ever seen on camera. If I were that actor, I would probably take a shower. Like I'd probably take 10 showers a day after that. I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could live with myself. For that's the main thing about actors. I think actors have to have an amazing sense of detachment. The ones who are really intense. And to me, and maybe I'm wrong about this. I've been told I'm wrong about this. I mean, when does their brain turn off? I mean, what do they take with them? Where does it come from? I mean, I know where it comes from. We all have those kind of thoughts and tempers, but to do it and then get through it, and I don't know. This could be total bullshit, but there is speculation that's one of the reasons Heath Ledger killed himself was he went too far method into that character.
Right.
I've
You
heard
know,
that. Yeah.
he was already into drugs, but I mean, he might not have done that to that extent. Um,
Mm. That
it's
was
really
tragic.
it's really sad that he died so young. And Brad
Right.
Renfro was only 25, and Brad Renfro was starting to produce independent movies. I mean, he was a cool fucking guy. And one thing I've learned recently that I didn't know, that maybe I should have suspected after watching the movie he was in, Bully by Larry Clark.
Great
Um,
movie.
Yeah.
I love Bully, but I mean that's like an alien life to me. Just watching those
Hmm.
kids in their life, it's so fascinating. It's just so dirty, but it's just so different and weird, you know. And that was based on a
So
real
Darwin Awards.
yeah, and that was based on the real story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those people are all still in prison. You need to see Bully,
Right.
Brittany
Yeah.
and Justin. But what I was going to say about Brad Renfro is, uh, I think I've read that he was one of the many younger, good-looking Hollywood guys who was being groomed by certain producers and
Mm.
directors for
Mm.
sexual activity and trafficking. And so that's a theory that could be one of the reasons he overdosed because he just couldn't handle that pressure.
Yeah.
Or
What was the big one that broke him in?
well, I know there was something the ones I like him in are kind of cult movies. I mean, obviously Bully he starred in, Ghost World he had a somewhat role in. He was an apt pupil with Ian McKellen.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
Oh,
that's
yeah. I was
that's what
trying to
I'm
think
thinking of.
what he was in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw
And
that
then
Right.
recently.
he also
Mm.
produced Bully. He produced some other independent movies. Um,
Oh wow.
he took his money and went right back into helping other filmmakers. And yeah, Apt Pupils. But see, Apt Pupil was directed by Bryan Singer, and so
Yeah.
that
Okay. There we
that
go.
Is that
fact
the connection that you were getting at?
Might be
it
the
wasn't.
Got
To
to
be
be careful.
honest, it wasn't what I was getting at when I was saying it.
allegedly.
But now
Yeah.
it's like, yes, I remember. Yes, that's obvious. Or obviously that may be where that slippery slope began. Like Brian, hey, Brad, want to come to one of my parties?
Yeah.
And the thing about John Singer is crazy is I've seen many interviews with him because I loved the X-Men movies. They really meant a lot to me, and I still love the first three.
That were good.
And And I like that pupil a lot. And it's like I don't like Usual Suspects at all, but most of my friends do. So, he's done some works that have had resonance.
Yeah.
Now he's been a hack for the last number of years. Just work for hire stuff. The X-Men movies he's done have been terrible. And but it seems like, in the beginning he was trying to prove he was like a kid who grew up on Star Wars. He kind of wanted to be a big Hollywood director, producer, but he didn't have the money, he didn't have the connections. So he got into it through the indie route, and then he happened to get X-Men, and then he kind of went from there and honed his craft. And he seemed very sincere about trying to be serious about the material. Um, but somewhere along the way, he started making less movies, and you start hearing more and more about the parties and about things that actors who hinted at things that he had done, but they couldn't feel like they could say, like, okay, I'll give you an example. Alan Cumming. So Alan Cumming is a gay actor, obviously. He played Nightcrawler in X-Men 2. He was brilliant. And, everybody wanted him to come back. Obviously, Nightcrawler's a popular character. Nobody looks like Nightcrawler. And he was like, I'm never coming back. I'm never going to the X-Men. I'm never going to work with that Bryan Singer guy again. And they tried to pull it out of him. Why not? There's just things. There's just things that happened, things about him. No. And then he finally defaulted and said, the makeup was too much for me. But that was just, you know. And I'm
Yeah.
sure
That
it
wasn't a
was.
real reason.
I'm sure that makeup.
The first part of that says a whole lot more than the second part.
Yeah, and then now, you know what? The Marvel, what's the big crossover one coming? Avengers Doomsday. He's coming back as Nightcrawler on all the original X-Men. No Bryan Singer around. It's like, maybe this time I won't get raped. God. Good Lord. And he seems like the kind of guy, I don't know if he would even get raped. He probably would just observe that behavior and be like, this is just fucked up.
Yeah.
And because, yeah, I mean, I don't know how you feel about Justin, but if I were a gay man and I grew up in a time when people lumped all this kind of stuff together that was off the beaten path sexually, I mean, I would not want to be lumped in with pederasts or, any of this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And it's only very recently that that's really stopped. But some of the people,
Yeah.
like, for instance, look at NAMBLA. Some of the people who helped shut down NAMBLA are lesbians. They're the fiercest opponents of NAMBLA are lesbians. Okay, they're gay, so you think, well, they'd be okay with guys and boys. Like, no, they're also mothers, and they're not
Yeah.
okay with this.
Yeah.
And I
No,
think
totally. You wouldn't want to be associated. I mean, I wonder what Ian McKellen's take is because he worked with Bryan Singer on the X-Men films
I
anyway.
feel like Ian McKellen is probably a guy, not to put him down because I don't know him. I think he's the kind of guy who would kind of look the other way. Like, I've been in theater since the 1950s and I've seen it all, and I just can't get caught up in that. It's the work that matters. I just feel like that's how he would, he would just be like, now a better one is Patrick Stewart. Because Patrick Stewart, by the way, I know if y'all are into astrology, Patrick Stewart's a Cancer. He just had a birthday, and he's actually a super sensitive, empathetic dude in real life. So I feel like who knows what he was going through. It's like, you've chased off Nightcrawler, and I've still contracted to 5 more movies.
He seems to be a big friend with McKellen, though, doesn't he? But
They've been
I
close
mean,
friends since the 60s.
McKellen's not associated with any of that.
No,
but,
no. McKellen is very much like, well, he's out, but he's very much like the character he played in Gods and Monsters, James Whale. Kind of an old school, kind of stoic gay man. He wasn't out, but he also wasn't really that coy either. It's like you just had to be around him. You could get it. And I like the way they explored that because someone like Brendan Fraser, who a lot of us boring white men, who grew up around gay people, we didn't know what the hell was going on. I mean, I was enough of an outcast as it was. I couldn't figure it out. But then I had a girlfriend who was like, they're just gay. I mean, what's the big deal? And I was like, well, that kind of goes along my other ideals about racism and stuff. So okay, that's cool.
So
Yeah,
what's
where
happened?
were we?
Is Brian Singer actually cancelled these days, or what's the
Oh yeah,
situation?
he's been canceled. The thing is that stuff came out a number of years ago. This woman made
Yeah, I've
this
heard.
one, but they didn't take it seriously until the Me Too era, because the Me Too
Yeah,
era
that's right.
started to embrace gay people too. And Singer, there's a woman who made a documentary. It's very detailed. She might have made it about 10 years ago. You can get it on YouTube. It was suppressed. I mean, it was banned. You couldn't get a real copy of it like on DVD. And I'll be able to figure out the name eventually and tell y'all. But uh, it talked about all of this, and yes, it actually showed footage of Brian Singer at a party with boys. Nothing sexual was going on, but in the narration, it was being discussed by the woman who made the movie, and she's like, "This is Hollywood's biggest uh, open or worst kept secret." I think it might have even been called something like an open secret or something. And she was just wailing on everyone in Hollywood for being complicit in all of this that knows these people. But when Me Too came around, people started talking about that stuff again. I don't know how many people saw that movie, but suddenly Brian Singer did become persona non grata, because during the filming of Bohemian Rhapsody, when it first was filming, people were like, "Oh, Brian Singer did the X-Men, is doing a Queen movie." By the time the Oscars came around, they didn't mention his name. They didn't mention Brian Singer's name from the time it went to the theater at all. Nothing. No publicity. It's just he's on a poster. It says directed by Brian Singer, and it's on screen. Nobody interviewed him. Nobody got nominated for anything. They pretend like he did not exist. Everyone pulled away from him, and deservedly so. But it was just so weird, the timing, that he's making a movie about a gay icon.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
that's the point. He's not gay. He's probably a pedophile, or at the very least a hebephile. And the
But
other
don't
one is,
forget, even Harvey Keitel, what's his name? I nearly said Harvey Keitel. Excuse me.
no, not
Harvey
him.
Harvey
Harvey
Weinstein.
Weinstein.
Weinstein. They used to make jokes at the Oscars about how he was too handsy with women and everything, and or you'd have to sleep on the director's couch to get a part in a Harvey Weinstein film for Miramax. It was all a big joke.
But
But then as soon as the Me Too thing happened, it was like, oh,
here's a movie that I covered that I'm proud of covering. This came to my mind because the video, for some reason, it's one of our early episodes. It is rising still in the watch views, which is weird. What's it called? Threads.
Oh, yes.
BBC film. Have anyone here seen it?
No.
Seen enough of it.
Well, that's a good way to put it. If you watch, because it's funny, because when you watch Threads, it's like, I don't know. I feel like if you watch Threads and then you hear something like the president say that kind of thing, and you're not even the least bit worried, then there's something inside you that's dead. I mean, I could imagine you feeling that way before seeing Threads, but if you saw Threads, because Threads is the most thorough, I mean, it's fiction, but it's the most thorough documentary style movie ever made about all the intricate details of what will happen if there's a nuclear exchange and how it will affect average people on the street. In this case, in Britain. And it's got all these incredible computer graphics. This is like 1984, right? 95. And it's like, all these readouts of like how many casualties and what's happening to the environment, and is there a certain amount of harvestable land to grow vegetables, and then at the end, one of our protagonists, she's the protagonist's daughter, is pretty much illiterate by the time she's pubescent, and she's hanging out with these guys, and one of them just I'm gonna say casually, because they become like animals. He rapes her, and at 13, and then she gives birth, and the movie ends with you about to see what the baby looks like, and she screams, and it's just like a horror movie. It's like the first mutant baby after this has been born in Britain. The first mutant. It doesn't say that, but it says something about that it was born a certain way. So I mean, basically, the first like disfigured, deformed mutant baby in Britain after the nuclear exchange, which was like 20 years earlier, has now been born, and this is what we've got to look forward to. And the only people parenting these mutant crazy babies are children who have no education whatsoever. Their entire infrastructure of learning is like completely destroyed. And so you see older people who are like, really more like like her mother dies a little bit before that. And her mother, is 20 years. Her mother was like 20 when the movie starts. So she's like 40, and her hair's white. She's gone blind. She's like a shell of a person. She looks about 95 or 100 years old. And it's just like, and when she dies, her daughter calls her by her name. Nobody says mommy and daddy anymore. They don't have any of those traditions at all. And she's just like repeating her name. Oh, she's not moving. It's like they don't even understand death really yet, and it's like, wow. So, if people want to wipe out an entire species, civilization, and all of their dubious accomplishments, then yeah, sure, let's have a nuclear exchange. I mean, if that's your goal, whatever. Um, I'm not one of those though. But I was proud that I covered it because I found
Yeah.
out since then that there were other people that were cool that I figured might like it, but there were people I followed on YouTube, not movie people, but political people, and they started talking about it. The main one, Briggy, was Kit Cabello. He said, man, Joe Biden needs to watch Threads, man. That'll change your soul. And I was like, oh my God.
Mm.
And I think there were a lot of those movies in the '80s because Reagan was ready
Yeah.
at any moment.
Was it the song? Was there a movie called The Day After that was along those
Yes.
lines as well?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Also in
Yeah.
the UK as well. Yeah.
Testament was one with Colin
Testament.
Firth.
Yeah. Very, very, a lot more subtle and a lot more.
Yeah, the day after was a Jason Robart. It kind of was more like a drama.
That was the movie of the week, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like more like Threads could not have been shown on American TV.
Yeah.
It was way too graphic, in every way. But day after was kind of like saying, well, everything's about over, but if you have a sweet, kindly old granddad like Jason Robards, you can chill out and give each other hopeful sense. And I
So
mean,
nice.
it was darker than that, but not a whole lot. The first movie like that ever was called The War Game by Peter Watkins, I think is his name. And that was a black and white one, and that was also like a faux documentary. That was in like the '60s.
It was kind of like the predecessor to Threads, wasn't it? Really?
It is, yeah. They inspired it,
I mean,
and I haven't.
Isn't
I
Peter
haven't seen.
Watkins? Wasn't he the guy who did Threads?
Yeah, well, Wilkins or Watkins. Roger Watkins is the guy who did Last House on
Oh
Downing
yeah,
Street.
yeah.
But I'm thinking of
I know Roger Watkins.
Peter Watkins or whatever his name. Anyway, he's the one who did like Punishment Park and The War Game. He did several kind of art house British movies during that period, and I really don't think I've seen any of them all the way through. Unfortunately, I do think I have a copy of Punishment Park, but I haven't watched it really. War Game.
I've seen the War Game.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Cool. Did you like it?
As much as you can like such a thing,
Right.
yes. Yeah, it's
I knew that.
real good. Kind of would do a similar job information wise as Threads.
Yeah, all these cautionary movies that came out when we were kids, it's all happening.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why didn't anybody listen? There's plenty of warnings.
There was another one when I was at high school, and I think it was American. I was at high school, and there was this thing we watched in social studies or something called The Wave, and it was about a girl in the school says, I don't understand how the German people during the late 1930s could have just gone along with what was happening when Hitler was in power and so forth. How could that have happened? So the teacher decided to play an experiment where he promoted this class having this sort of mindset where you had to go along with the group as opposed to be an individual free thinker. And certain people were free thinkers and they were excluded from the rest of the group, sometimes in certain sort of brutal fashion as well. So that was called The Wave. It was quite interesting, actually.
I'd like to see
I think
that.
I think I saw that.
Those movies that have these weird, like studies or whatever, with that, they always are fascinating to me. People who volunteer for these weird experiments, and then that of course that's also been done in horror movies. I mean, obviously, Men Behind the Sun is probably the most infamous one. About what's that place called? Something 731.
Yeah, Unit 731.
You guys know about that?
Yeah.
So 731 was this notorious laboratory that the Japanese during World War II scientists experimented upon people, mostly Chinese people.
Yeah, it was
Stuff they
in North
did,
Korea.
they did every single nasty, disgusting thing the human body you can even imagine. I mean, and they used chemicals, they used all kinds of shit. I mean, and they did it while these people were conscious and alive.
Yeah,
They didn't
and
sedate them first. We're like, well, we're gonna drop some acid on your limbs, but we need you to wait for this to get the right reaction.
to the
Um,
point where you had one of Hitler's guys there watching what was going on, and this was a Nazi. I mean, a literal Nazi, no euphemisms, and he actually tried to help people get away, and he was so horrified by this, and I think they wound up killing him.
yeah, and then when it was over, they destroyed. They didn't manage to destroy all the records, but they destroyed a lot of them, and they destroyed a lot of the technology that was, if you want to call it that, that was created out of the experiments. I mean, so many of them were just obvious things, like what can a human body endure freezing? So, Robert, you've seen this movie, right?
I have a copy of it. I
Okay.
haven't actually watched it.
Yeah, I mean it's not relentlessly hard to take. It's just parts of it. Some shots are very hard to take. The one that really freaked me out is they show a woman, and they freeze her arms up to like here. And it's not a woman; it's actually a guy with long hair. I thought it was a woman that still. And they freeze them up to here, and of course they're conscious and they're screaming, and then they just break them apart because they're frozen and brittle. And it's just like, oh my god! And then this other woman, they put her arms through something. I don't know if it's heat or acid or something, and all the skin comes off, and so her arms are just like these bones with weird little nerves hanging around, and she's just like, and it looks pretty disgusting. So that's some of the milder highlights of the movie. No, actually, that wasn't as. There's a movie that's easier to take like that, but that's kind of laborious called Philosophy of a Knife.
Yeah,
So
Oh
this
yeah,
is by one of the modern extreme filmmakers. I can't
right.
remember. It's not Ola Fettenbach. It's not Darian Mora. It's that other guy. It's like a 4-hour movie in black and white, and it's the whole 731 story. And
Hmm.
what's funny is it was more low budget than the Japanese movie, but it's more artistically made. It's really well. I mean, none of his other movies look that great, but this one looks really great, and he has some good effects, and it doesn't linger. It has a little bit of an intelligence to it. It lingers on some things for sure, but but it's in black and white too, so it's a little easier to take. Um, and I expected it to be like make Men Behind the Sun look like Winnie the Pooh. So anybody else want to talk about what they'd like to talk about in the future before we go? Chuck, any ideas?
I just I mostly just kind of bobbed around like a big old jellyfish, and he said, "Oh, let's talk about this." And okay, and
You're
just
infinitely adaptable.
I kind of go where I'm pointed, but I don't know. I kind of have I kind of like a return to the Japanese movies
Yeah,
because
me too.
I've kept my powder dry on a bunch of those,
Hmm.
but also I'd like to kind of second a lot of what Robert said.
With the noir stuff.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've been thinking about that for a long time. Um, what about you, Justin? You've brought up a bunch of
Yeah,
things before in the chat.
yeah. I think look, my favorite genre is probably horror, but also I think supernatural thrillers as well. It doesn't for me. I don't like gore horror so much as supernatural suspense ones. Um, but yeah, sci-fi or fantasy. You could look at either doing
I
fantasy
was thinking about
things.
doing fantasy as opposed to science fiction.
They're running a
There
month of
is,
fantasy films
yeah.
at the Astor this month, actually, or the
What
last
are
few weeks. So,
what are they
so that's a
playing?
possibility.
What are they playing?
Well, I went and saw Excalibur, and it was a
Okay.
double feature with Clash of the Titans, but I couldn't stay for Clash of the Titans. It was
Much
Sunday
of
night,
the
but I had seen that when I was a kid, but I hadn't seen Excalibur before. And they're playing films like Willow. They're playing a jokey one, which is Monty Python's The Holy Grail, which I think is taking the Mickey out of the Excalibur probably directly. Um, but
yeah,
and
yeah.
Oh, there's a few cheesy ones like Dolph Lundgren in Masters of the Universe is on.
Oh wow,
um,
that's definitely
and
fantasy.
they had a Lord of the Rings, back to back, the first three, Return of the King and the two predecessors, back, from start to finish one Sunday as well. But I didn't go to that because I'm too familiar with those films.
Yeah,
I'm a huge Tolkien fan, so um, yeah, so yeah, the Dark Crystal, Willow, those sort of films were
yeah,
showing
yeah.
up. In,
There's
in,
actually a lot of genre animated movies that would be cool to cover. I've batted that around with a few people, mainly Bill and Chuck, and then Aaron when he was on the channel. We were talking about doing that. Um, and if you guys needed any suggestions, I could point you in the right direction. But they
Fire
notice
and Ice was on. Yeah,
Fire and Ice.
there's
That's
a
a
film
good,
Fire and Ice. That's an animated fantasy film. Yeah,
yeah. And the thing about it is that if you do animation, you could do anything. You could do you could do anime, you could do what we're talking about. You could do whatever. As long as this, I would say, as long as it's CGI. I mean, as long as it's cell animation or puppetry, stop motion, but no CGI or Pixar kind of stuff. I'm tired of that stuff, to be honest.
and I'd
That's
also like to do, like others have said, film noir. I quite enjoy that. I enjoy 1930s sort of period action film, period pieces, 1930s. But film noir,
Noir kind of
that might be
kicked in
good as
after
well.
World War II the most, though, because of the kind
Yeah.
of mood of people.
Right.
Mm.
Um, yeah, actually, Justin, you did suggest one a while back that I actually did put on the short list. I just called it Psychos. I couldn't figure out how else to put it.
Psychos, yeah, I
Yes,
like
yeah.
psycho films. Yeah.
Because you were basically talking about everything from like serial killers to like Fatal Attraction to anything in
He
between.
said, "How can this be revenge?" When it's the
Yeah, yeah,
psycho seeking
yeah.
revenge.
You mentioned one to me, and I said that's not revenge. You're like, yeah, but it's Psychos. It's
Yeah,
like there's a fine line there. Um,
yeah,
yeah, that would
yeah.
be a
It's
good
just one of many threads. Yeah,
I'll make a
yeah.
list. What do
Make
you
some
think?
suggestions along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Briggy?
Um, well, there are two movies that come to mind that are movies that I really loved watching. One was The Lover, if you haven't heard of that
Which one?
movie. There's more than one?
Yeah, I'm just trying to
Oh,
think if we're
okay.
talking about the same movie, though. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. This is the one. I think this was in the 1990s. This movie came out.
Tony Lee Young is
And
in it.
who?
Tony Lee Young,
Who?
the actor, Tony Young. You know
I
him if you.
don't know.
Is it
Maybe
an
I do.
is it an Asian man and a white woman? Is that the plot?
Yeah, that one
Okay,
I thought
that's
that.
the one. Yes,
Yeah, I think that was pretty good.
I've got
That
that in my
sort of.
watch list. I haven't watched it yet.
Have you watched it yet? You haven't
I
watched it?
started it and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put this aside.
It's really good, and then it's also narrated. I forget the actress's name, but her voice is very distinctive, and it's actually from the memoirs of the person who's the young girl. Um, in that not the actress, but the young girl
Do you
portrayed
know who
in
that?
the
Do you know who that was? That was Marguerite Duras, the writer. And Marguerite Duras did
Mhm.
have a fetish for Asian men in her youth. And there's
Mhm.
another movie that she wrote called much more famous movie, but didn't make as much money, but a classic called Hiroshima Mon Amour, which came out
Oh
in
yeah.
the early '60s. It was a black and white
Yeah.
new wave kind of French new wave movie, and it did have a Japanese
Mhm.
lead, and everyone else was French. And it's pretty erotic. It's pretty artistic. Um,
Mhm.
I have a copy. It's great, but I haven't seen The Lover. I've been wanting to see it for
I think you'll
since the
enjoy it. I
'90s.
mean, I really loved that movie. Cinematography was really beautiful. It's very slow. The pacing is just what it needed to be based on where they were. It just captures the moment, the heat. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Indonesia at that time in the 20s, and these two people who just met, and so and the soundtrack. I think I'm a soundtrack girl. I love soundtracks. I'm always listening to the
Mm,
soundtrack because
mm.
that's another character as far as I'm concerned in the
Hmm.
movie.
Yeah.
And so that was really good. So The Lover and another one that has the same kind of, it's totally different, but it is about two people who you wouldn't think would be together, wouldn't be in love. It's called The Night Porter. So
Yeah,
I
we've
love
covered
that
that
movie.
actually.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you did
Yeah.
cover the Night Porter. Oh,
I
I
covered.
didn't
I
know
Right.
that.
actually I covered it when we covered Italian cinema, and that was one
Oh,
of those
cool.
movies I covered it. And again, a certain person was not.
Mm.
I could hear their stomach turning.
Did they need a safe space?
Well,
Okay,
I mean,
so
and
anyway.
to be honest, it was kind of like when I told you about In the Room with Senses. Pretty much, I could hear
Mhm.
almost everyone's stomach turning to different degrees because
Oh.
it see unless you have a like weird imagination like me, because I write stories and they're weird.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
it, the premise is offensive to numerous people. You know,
Mm.
I've never found it offensive because I know it's fiction, and I also know that that
Mhm.
probably did happen in real life to some people.
Mhm.
But we know
Mhm.
about Stockholm
Mhm.
syndrome. We know about all this stuff.
Mhm.
I adore
Mhm.
The Night Porter. It's one of my absolute favorite movies.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. I really did, and I thought that's not a movie that can be made today, not with that level
No,
of
No.
honesty. You know what I mean? Or even like 2 years ago, or even 4 years ago, it couldn't have been made. And so
it's
that's what
anti-Semitic.
gives.
First of all,
Well,
I'm kidding. You know what I'm saying. That's the
I
first thing
mean,
you'd hear.
yeah, I'm just like it's art. It's art. It's
Exactly.
art that in its purest form, cinematic art. I mean, art is not always to make you feel like warm and fluffy and warm inside. It's telling a story, a point of view, about two people who stumbled upon each other by accident and then realized, oh, you were that guy who did X, Y, and Z to me. And I thought the flashbacks were pretty amazing as
Oh yeah.
well. I thought the flashbacks of what they both encounter, how they encountered each other, and then he sort of felt like she was his possession in some way, and she felt she was okay with that.
Well, the
They
thing of
sort of
the way he says
reenacting.
it, and I mean, it's not politically correct for men to
Hmm.
express love toward women this way anymore. When I was a kid, it was said in a lot of movies and fiction. But when he says she's my little girl, and it's like that doesn't mean he's a pedophile. That doesn't mean he's going to keep doing what he did to her in the camps. It comes
Hmm.
from here. It's hard to describe. There's a girl I dated one time I felt that way about, who was younger than me, not underage, but like 20, and I was like 35, and just she was very
Hmm.
kind of nymphed and just kind of, I don't know. I just wanted to protect her, and so that's that kind of thing about him, is he protected her from being killed, but he was one of the Nazis. So that's going to cause cognitive dissonance with the viewers, not me, but
It's it's kind of like 12 Years a Slave, or like some things that happened in that movie, or even uh Hemmings and Jefferson, where people were like they were in love, but how much in love could you be if you're being held captive? Do you know what I mean? How much in
yeah,
love could you, if you don't have free will
yeah.
to love, to leave? How can you say that's love? Even in abusive relationships that are taking place right now as we speak, like how can you say that's love if you are threatened with death if you leave?
I think
So
what it is. I
it
think what
kind
it
of.
is when you get into fiction. To me, both writing and reading, watching movies, it's like I bought a copy of Lolita in the early '90s, and that edition used to have a quote on the cover, and it said, "This is the only truly convincing love story of the 20th century." And I took that to heart. I read the book. I read it many, many, many times, and um, even though it is one-sided, unfortunately, that's really the big hole in it, is that it's one-sided.
Yeah.
It's one-sided, but it's also two-way in that she's manipulating him too. So but then you get into consent, of course. But then you get into Quilty, and how do you explain that part of it? Um, so, uh, in other words, it was his passion, and I think that came out in the Kubrick film. I think there were
Yeah,
moments where Mason
yeah.
played it for comedy because of the subject matter, but like I've told y'all before, I've probably acted this out on the show before. Toward the end, where he's begging her to go with him, I don't know, man. That's some powerful shit, man.
I kind of feel like that movie and the book and the portrayal and the story is from that Lolita. I feel like it tells a story through the male gaze of what they think women are always doing to them, and we're not. You know what I mean? It's like this girl was being taken advantage of. Oh,
Yeah.
but she knew what she was doing. She knew. You see what I mean? And men
Well,
like
Yeah.
that
he
exist
he doesn't
today.
really say that. I mean, he does hint at it, but Quilty, of course, blames it on her. But
Well, what I'm saying is even today,
yeah,
even today, they'll
yeah,
say, "Oh, she's fast," or "She was doing that on purpose," or "She knew what she was doing," or you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And it just
of
sort of
course.
always puts
Yeah.
the
Or
blame for. Yeah,
I've
go ahead,
heard
please.
this. I've
She
heard
knew
this
what.
one
Mhm,
before. She raped
mhm.
me.
Yeah, but see, here's why.
That's
Right,
one
right,
I've
right,
But
heard.
right,
this is
right.
what's brilliant about
Mhm,
Nabokov making it that way, because, and this is what I've
mhm,
always thought is makes it hurt. It hurts the romanticism of the just basic, romantic idea of it, albeit sick, and is that Alita, to me anyway, is an extremely unlikable character. No matter what her age is, I don't give a damn. She's at 12, 14, 18. She's just
mhm,
horribly unlikable. And
mhm,
so, me personally, as a man, I would never fall in love with a woman that unlikable, no matter what her age is, or that stupid where you had to explain like the most basic, like third grade shit to her, and that's
mhm.
where he's in a fantasy world. He's totally in his own. And so that gets the reader off the hook a little bit because then you're like, you don't necessarily say what you just say, like she deserves it, but you're kind of like, yeah, but she was a bitch and she did this, this, this. And it's tempting to go in that direction as a reader. But that,
Yeah,
that has
yeah.
nothing to do
That
with the moral aspect of what he's doing. But on
right.
a
But the fact
dramatic
that you
level,
don't, okay. But I'm saying the fact that you don't, or whoever doesn't like her, that's in you. That's your
well, no,
projection.
no, Nabokov deliberately, she represents America, and Humbert, he said this many times, Humbert represents Europe, and he's making
Mm-hmm.
fun of how banal 1950s America was to him, and how
Mm-hmm.
he's making fun also of how highfalutin European culture was then. He's making fun of himself too. That's why he has
Mm-hmm.
Humbert say all these crazy things. So, it's kind of like um, it's like it's a comment on colonialism. It's a comment on culture. I mean, I didn't really get all that the first time I read it, but as time went on,
Yeah.
and I read
Mm-hmm.
interviews with him, I do see more of that. So when I say she's
Mm-hmm.
unlikable, she in the book represents things that I find banal and unappealing.
Okay, so for you to say all
That,
of that, what
but
you
that
said
doesn't
is
mean that she
way,
deserves to be taken advantage of. I'm just making a point.
yeah, no, and I'm saying if as a director, that all of that explanation needs to be said about this movie that's very controversial, that if you can't even name your child that if you wanted to because of all of the um, things said about the book, about the movies, that it was real. She was really the one who said all of this stuff. All of this stuff. There's too much explaining that has to be done. If it's a commentary on capitalism or a commentary
On
on,
one level, I
you
don't think that's
know,
the point of it, but that's a layer of it. That's all I'm
right? No, it didn't get any of that. I don't even see any of that in that movie. I don't
over the
even
years, especially as you
read
watch
all
the
that.
Kubrick movie and you watch how he acts and the thing.
Hmm.
Now he goes into more detail in the book because he narrates it, but in the movie, it's more economical word wise. And if you kind of want
Hmm.
study his attitude, I think the way he plays it is, he kind of looks down on Charlotte, the mother, because she's frivolous and
Hmm.
goofy, and
Hmm.
but he doesn't look down on Lolita because of his sexual fetish. So
Hmm.
I'm just saying there's all these weird contradictions. And what I'm saying is if Lolita were like a lot of Lolita stories, not that one where the girl is sweet and innocent, then yeah, I mean Humbert would be like reviled as one of the most horrible characters in the history of the world. But because, Lolita is a dubious character on different levels,
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
it throws in an ambiguity, you know.
Yeah, I think she's dubious because she's been preyed on, and so this is a result being preyed on. This is a product of that. Do you see what I mean? You may or may not
Yeah.
agree,
Oh,
but
well,
nobody just
yeah, kind of.
comes out that way. She
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
they showed her, oh, I have value because of what you're willing to
Right.
do. And so if you see that, you're going to say, if I have value, it's worth something, and I want something for what you want. You see what I mean? And that,
Oh,
and
I
so
agree.
so that's really all I'm saying. It just seems very. I don't understand why this is like so controversial.
But
Like
there's
she's
the
so
thing is, there's
young.
no redemption for Lolita because she just meets a redneck and gets pregnant. And the only difference is now she's of legal age. She's still
Yeah,
living
but
a useless life, and she's still a callous person, you know. And I think
right.
people have made her callous, no doubt. But you know,
Yeah, it's like somebody I was speaking with, and they were saying they were talking about women or certain women, and they were like, "Yeah, you have to be the red flags because they're all crazy," and that's a catch-all that men say about women. And I said, no, women aren't crazy, they're traumatized. So if they do things that appear crazy, it's because they've been traumatized. Traumatized by who? Traumatized by men in this situation that we were talking about, like lied to, used, then
sure.
discarded, then they trusted again, lied to, used. And at some point, you gain a level of mistrust and trauma. And if people act a certain way, it's because they're responding to past situations that triggered that trauma. So it's not to say they're crazy, they're
Oh,
traumatized.
well, I'm
No, I'm
crazy and
just
I'm
saying,
traumatized.
well, that's what I'm saying. So,
I'll admit that's why
but
I'm crazy. I'm
but women
traumatized as
don't
hell.
say, well, men are crazy. Men don't say,
I know they
oh,
do,
she's
but not
just
all men do.
so it's not, it's just kind of ridiculous. Anyway, maybe I'm just taking it a little too seriously because I think the wording, the narrative behind why this young girl turned out the way she did was not due to the fact that she wanted to be that way. She turned out that way because of what was being done to her. So the fact that she was with a redneck and got pregnant and then just lived in this
I'm
trailer
not
park.
morally judging her. I'm just saying she didn't make a
There are lots of
tremendous
women today
advance.
who are living that life
I
because of
know,
those things.
and I don't know what their
So they're
problem is.
learning.
I don't know what their problem is either. I mean, it's their
Okay,
lives, but damn, you know, it
gotcha,
it
gotcha.
seems like it seems like just like you were saying about bringing in those layers that Nabokov mentioned. By the
Mhm,
same token, everything you're saying is things that's being inferred by us through our modern lens. People weren't thinking
mhm.
about women in this way in the 50s when that was written, you know, and so I'm not saying they should have been all along. But now we can look back and see that, and then we have to go, well, where do you stand? Do you stand with just your moral judgment? Do you stand with it as a work of art? I just stand with it as a work of art. I don't have
Mhm.
a moral opinion of it at all, you know, because I don't
Yeah,
like to be reactionary about works of fiction because I've
right.
seen people
Mhm,
really be awful people over things of that
mhm.
nature. That's where we get
But
cynical.
that movie is also a commentary on, this is what you get. So it's kind of like, oh, it's
No, of
always
course.
punitive.
Yeah.
It's always very punitive. So again, that was through the lens of what men believe happens to girls who are not, good girls. You know what I mean? If you're not a good girl, you're going to wind up in a trailer park, pregnant and barefoot, that if you don't if you don't comply, these are the things that are going to happen to you. And it's like a cautionary tale, for for those people of that time. And in many ways, even today, because it has a sense of purity culture built into it as well.
Mhm.
And that is very strong today. Men are still interested in how many men women have been with, which is ridiculous to
Mhm.
me personally.
Me too.
But they're still asking these same questions. That's like, the thing that won't die. It's just kind of it's exhausting. And we could just lie anyway. How will you know? Is there like a counter? I mean, how many miles do you have on your dick? Like, why are you asking me?
Yeah,
You know,
I don't. That's a place I
like
don't even go. I don't even
it's
go there
just
with women at
it's
all
just
because
crazy.
it's
But I
that's
think
their
it's just kind
life.
of
You know, it doesn't have anything to do with me. And
yeah, it doesn't even make sense.
a movie I think that depicts a young person's view of that really good is Chasing Amy.
Mhm.
I don't and
Ooh.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
because he really
yeah.
I kind of felt like that character for a little while. One girl I dated, and
Hmm.
I didn't wasn't proud of feeling that way. You know, but I felt threatened. You know, and
Oh,
I'll say it. I felt threatened
but I
sexually.
think that's good. I think that's good that you're saying I felt threatened because that, you know what that gives you? That gives you an opportunity now to not have that voice going around in your head. You would have been like,
Henry,
oh, okay,
I
fine.
gotta get off now.
All right,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
buddy.
All
Sorry
right.
we kept you on
Sorry,
so long.
that's
Yeah.
No,
all
no, no.
right.
It's all good. It's all good. I'm gonna bounce
Thanks a
off
lot.
before I
Thanks,
Yeah.
man.
Okay, adios.
Appreciate you. We love you.
Thanks.
All right.
Right. Yeah,
I might
I'm
have to
gonna
go as well,
bounce.
actually,
Sorry.
Yeah, we'll fold up here
Henry,
in
as
1
well.
sec.
It's been
Sign
good. It's
off,
been
or
great
we're
fun.
just
Yep.
hanging out.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
I'll
man.
talk to you next time.
Appreciate you showing up.
See you, Briggy. Okay.
Take it
No
easy.
problem.
Bye.
It was fun. See ya.
Bye.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
listen, do we wanna kind of put a cap on this?
Okay, well, I wanted to thank everybody that stuck around of our group here to the end, and anyone who's watching who stuck around to the end. And we hope you enjoyed this. This has been a almost live stream, mostly uncensored, unexpurgated. And no, we're not going to post the deleted scenes anywhere, especially not at the end of a video to upset anybody. But we do appreciate you watching, and thanks for sticking around for 2 years, and try to like the video and see if you can get some of your acquaintances to subscribe. Would you like to say anything, Chuck?
Oh, good night, kids.
Would you like to say anything?
Sorry, doing my Clarabelle there.
Yes.
Well, it's been a solid 2 years, and lots of fun, lots of controversy, lots of varying opinions. Very spirited, happy group, and glad to be a part of it. So stay
We're glad
tuned.
to
We've
have
got
you.
more for you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I love all you guys. So, all
Likewise.
right, thank you. Have a good evening, people.
And it's true that we cannot see that far behind. If we looked all the way in the past, we'd go blind. In the night, from the stars as they've all lived their lives, and the light that they gave as they burned and then died.